Welcome.
Thank you.
To join me here on the interviews channel that we're doing for BSides Lisbon 2017. So talk about a bit about yourself. About why are you here? So we're just discussing that you're giving a talk for 2 hours.
No, I'm not giving a talk for 2 hours. I'm only giving a talk for an hour. So So my name is Thomas. I work for a company called Digital Guardian, and one of my roles is to actually look at advanced threats. So look at what's essentially attacking data. So we're very specialized in data protection, right? Mm-hmm. So we look at, if you think about data leaks, and GDPR in Europe right now. So what we try to do is actually help customers understand what kind of threats are happening to data, and that can be insider or outsider. And one of the challenges that we have is you can actually collect a lot of information when you're monitoring data, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're actually looking at data, you're potentially generating gigabytes and gigabytes of data. So how do you handle that? Well, a couple of years ago, people started talking about threat hunting, and you started to see in the marketing literature. So I delved into that to see what is it really about, right? And what do you do when you call yourself a threat hunter? Mm. So the presentation this afternoon is all about that. It's like my story of how I came to understand threat hunting, but I also noticed some things that just don't work for me that we could do better. Such as reliance on too much machine, right? Reliance on people are talking about, we need machine. A lot of these vendors are talking about, you need machine learning, you need AI to help you to do the threat hunting, all this machine learning. I'm like, but there's nothing better than a pair of eyes attached to a brain, right? So when you look at it, it's like, what are we actually missing, right? Because you've got when you think about what's going on and you're looking at incident response, right? Because this is an extension of incident response, essentially. It's a means to actually start an incident response event and then do all the forensics work that you need to do. So it's a means of detecting something. But so the idea is that we're so focused on triggering an instant response based on an alert, based on an event that we know, or we use things like MITRE ATT&CK, or we use all of these FBI notices, or NIST notices, or NSA notices, and things like that, latest attacks. That what are we actually missing though? Right? Because you're triggering on something that you know. What about all the unknowns, right? We've been talking about the unknown unknowns for so many years. So how do you actually find them, right? And one of the founding principles is you need to understand your environment, right? You need to understand your infrastructure, what's happening. And one of the things that we don't do very well in security, and there's a lot of people that are trying to change that. I'm one of them that preaches that we need to think about the business rather than security. So we need to be more business aware, more business process aware. Security, I don't know if you were at Lightning Talks last night, but one of the guys was talking about security, being business aware or security, That's something that we need to focus more of our attention on, because businesses change, they adapt. We've been talking about this for years as well, that the current generation is coming into the workforce, and that current generation is enabled. I mean, IT enabled, right? It's like device enabled and everything. So they're bring
your own device, all that kind of stuff.
And they have expectations on what they want to do with IT and with systems, right? And they expect to have all of these applications underhand.
Yeah,
right?
They do.
Things that a lot of businesses are trying to adapt and at an alarming rate. So security kind of gets, as usual, put as a second thought, right? Yeah. So you kind of think, so we need to change that attitude, right? We need to think, how do we do security in a sense that we become more business aware?
Well, putting that into kind of perspective, you have kind of two ways, right? We have the security, explaining security to the InfoSec professionals, and explaining security to consumers or to the other, to users.
Yeah.
And that's kind of two different paths, right? Because at the end, someone once told that the weakest link in security is actually the human being, right? It's not computer. It's not the. So
the threat is the human.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So it's the guy behind between the chair and exactly between the chair and the computer. So. But bottom line, as you explained, so there's a lot of, we bring in new devices to companies. We expect things to work as they do on our normal life with applications, with everything related. And security usually tries. It's not ahead of things. It's usually tried to patch those
it's
kind of
reactive,
holes. Exactly,
it's reactive versus proactive.
So we need to be more proactive regarding security.
And one of the ways. So this isn't really part of the talk this afternoon, but it's something that I also try to talk to people about, and I talk to a lot of potentially some of the customers that I talk to and things like that. It's about to become that more proactive. You need to understand the business, that we're going back to that. We need to understand the business directions. You need to understand the business workflows, and you need to understand what's driving the business, right? Why the business might change direction, why things change, why they adapt new things. So if you understand what is a normal days of activity, you can start to detect the anomalies, right?
So patching the processes and workflows, right?
Yeah. Essentially, you're looking at building something that's not technology based, but more event or correlation based, right? So if a business is driving towards moving to Office 365, how do I adapt my processes and procedures, and potentially tools at the end of the day? But how do I adapt that to be more secure and not impede the business in doing what they need to do?
You also mentioned about AI and machine learning related to security. Is that something that we should expect in the future, or you think about that
coming.
as
It's probably we're going to start. We saw it was. There's been a big focus this year, and I mean, I don't know if you went to Black Hat this year, but if you went to Black Hat, a lot of the little startup type activities that were going on, they were all talking about machine learning. They were all focused on doing that machine learning aspect. It depends on the way you define machine learning. So I don't know if you know Alex Pinto.
I know. Yeah. I know.
So if you talk, Alex I know Alex pretty well too, and if you talk to Alex, it's not. It's machine learning isn't that complicated, right? It's about you have inputs and you want an output, so you train you train your engine to produce that output. We're collecting more and more events, right? We keep adding, as a security professionals, we keep adding tools because you have that next generation threat, you have that next generation thing, and so there's a next generation tool to help you with that next generation. But you're generating data and you're not really using it, right? You don't understand what's going on. So we have that business workflow situation. So that's going to generate a set of events which you understand, you can identify, and you can train your machine learning to actually say, okay, these are typical normal events. So here's something that I want you to weed out of all of the noise that I'm seeing and all of the information that I'm seeing, so that you can actually take a condensed view of your information and highlight what's outside of that scope, right? Yeah. What's really important, exactly. And you can start to build trends. The problem I have right now is that I've looked at some of these quote-unquote analytics, AI, machine learning solutions, and most of them are just basically, they're, oh crap, I have to think of the word. I've forgotten the
filters.
Word. No, they're trends. They're trends, right? They're calculated trends. So you're basically trending your data, right? That's useless. I mean, because as an attacker, I could just hide in one. It's like, it's really simple. I saw one, because of that data protection aspect that we do. There was one that was trying to pitch us on, we can tell you when your users are emailing, the typical email ratio, so we can highlight when somebody's trying to exfiltrate data on a neat via email. And I'm like, yeah, but we do that today. So, well, how do you do that today? Well, it's a trend, right? I mean, a user comes in, 9 o'clock in the morning, he turns on his Outlook client, the email gets downloaded, he responds to the majority of his emails, he does some work, he might respond to 1-2 emails during the day. Lunchtime, he goes out, comes back, there's another email flow, and at the end of the day, there's very little emails, right? It's like, yeah, but we can do it better. It's like, okay, here's some data, do it better. It's like, I showed them my charts with basic statistical analysis versus their machine learning charts, and it was like a 1-to-1 match. So basically, you're asking me to pay a crap load of money to get a statistical engine. No, but it's math, and this is where, if you know Alex, it's like when people tell you it's math, just walk away. That's why I come back to my, in my talk I talk about there's nothing better than a a pair of eyes attached to a human brain, because the human brain is fantastic. You can correlate things in a different manner than any system will ever be able to.
Yeah, because it has also the broader picture, and you can understand the human behavior, right? So, probably just to end this. So, you're one of the organizers as well from the B-Sides London, right?
Correct.
And you're here today at B-Sides Lisbon for the first time. Is that it?
Yeah, this is my first time. Yeah.
Right. So, how do you compare both, or can you compare, or is it something?
No, I regularly go to B-Sides Las Vegas. I run B-Sides London. I went to B-Sides Amsterdam this year. It was the first time. I've been twice to B-Sides Athens. B-Sides Vienna as well. I've been to a few times. It's all different because although we're a quote unquote global community, I think each country has its own specificities, and people are slightly different in each country. I've grown up all over the world, so I actually, I'm originally French, for example, and I've lived everywhere. People have different ways of addressing the problem, right? They have different methods, and it's nice to be move around these different pockets of community, because you learn things. See how people are different in the way that they network together. I also like the fact that like B-Sides Lisbon is it's smaller, right? So we're running.
It still is.
Yeah, we're running at 900 plus.
Yeah, exactly. But London.
It's London.
Exactly.
And plus it's InfoSec, so it's. We're like third or fourth biggest in the.
You know what? I stopped going to InfoSec because there's a lot of noise around there. But it's usually fun to meet everyone there and to see everyone there.
Yeah, it is. And that's why a lot of people, they say they're going to InfoSec, but they actually come and see us. I like the smaller. I like the smaller aspects of some of these, regional B-Sides, because you have more opportunity to network, and it's different. I wouldn't compare. It's completely different. Everybody has their way of doing things. That's what I kind of like about B-Sides, right? It's like, although it's become a global brand and people recognize it as, a security conference, a small security conference, community-driven security conference. Each one has its own specialities and its own peculiarities.
Now, are you enjoying Lisbon? The sun, the weather, the food, and the badges, as you can see, they were.
Yeah, I have some bigger ones somewhere. I think I like this morning he was talking about you could almost put Lotus Notes or whatever on the floppy. I literally loaded the Apple operating system off. I think it was 10 or 15 of these things on my Apple II. It's like I've been in this industry for a long time, and you're sitting there, you're like, this is just.
I remember this thing. All right,
do you remember all the first IBM PS2s where you had to sit there changing this while the OS loaded?
I know. I had one of those. Excellent. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And hope to see you in the B-Sides London.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Come by. Yeah.
Thanks.